I, th I think PhD CCI, you people need to give us a permanent kind of a membership for the MGS branch per se. Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, my gratitude to the organizers for giving me this opportunity yet once again to share my thoughts on the ammunition landscape as it pertains to the Indian Army. So over the next about 10-15 minutes, I'll try and share the perspective. Wars are becoming increasingly intense and complex in nature. We're all witnessing that. The global landscape related to the ammunition is also changing at a very rapid and a very radical kind of a pace. Wars today, or the conflicts today, they are being characterized by being swift, being fast, short or long. It is something which needs to be seen as to how they unfold. But they are becoming lethal, they are becoming precise. In fact, they are now getting defined by the precision firepower, by rapid mobilization, and by the multi-domain synergy between land, air, sea, AI, robotics, cyber, space, and so on and so forth. So with this kind of a dimension, the Indian Army and the Indian Armed Forces, they are also preparing themselves to face these multifaceted challenges in a very deliberate, in a very strategized kind of a manner. We've got these comprehensive modernization programs which are currently underway, where technology is being integrated, where the bottom line or the end state is that we should be strategically prepared at all times. By focusing on aspects like the hybrid and the asymmetric warfare, the cyber, the AI, and the information warfare, investments in space capabilities from the lowest to the highest, and also taking care of the counter drone or the counter missile systems. I think we are positioning ourselves decently well to navigate through the evolving contours of future war fighting in a holistic kind of a manner. And ladies and gentlemen, in all of this, the ammunition automatically becomes the cornerstone in defining our war waging potential, capability, and capacity. Goes without saying, because the end game or the bottom line for everything that we do, which is related to the ammunition or our combat effectiveness or the operational preparedness or readiness, we are looking at safeguarding our national security. We are looking at maintaining a strategic kind of a dominance. We are wanting to achieve, 24/7 kind of an operational preparedness. And we want to also have a credible kind of a capability to achieve our short, medium, and long-term strategic goals. So the next moot question that arises is that what is Indian Army looking at? Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at smart and intelligent solutions related to the ammunition, which are tailor-made and customized to suit our operational requirements. And within this, we are looking at, a continuous flow or a high availability of every variant. I'll touch base a little later. We are looking at, faster kind of replenishments. We are looking at indigenously manufactured products, 100% indigenous. And we are looking at an assured quality which comes alongside. And of course, the two fundamental aspects which drive our needs, our necessities, our requirements. First is the stocking levels that we have to maintain. And the second is the training kind of an ammunition that is required to sustain, to ensure that the 12 lakh force of ours remains, operationally prepared and effective at all times. So these are the two fundamental drivers. So if this is the need as to what is the present ammunition ecosystem that we have before we step on to the next particular level, where are we today? So just to give you a little sneak peek into where we are today, we've got 175 different variants of ammunition on our inventory of all types, the small, the medium, and the heavy caliber. Out of these, ladies and gentlemen, 154 are today indigenized. And I must mention here that it is some kind of a mini success story, so as to say, from where we were about 3 to 4 years back and where we have come today. I think it's a very drastic and a very upscale kind of a transition that has happened. We were less than 50% indigenous, just about 4 years back. Today we are 90% indigenous. Out of these 154, apart from these 154, the other 21 which are balanced, 12 are in very advanced stages of trials. So I take it that they are also equally indigenized. That leaves us with only 9. Out of these 9, 7 are related to our aerial platforms, where the Air Force is the lead agency, and they have progressed very, very satisfactorily in also giving us, some kind of prototypes. So that is also going to follow. So the final 2 is where we have enough stocks as on date, and the EOQ and the MOQs, the minimum order quantities or the economic order quantities were not, gelling well as far as the cost to benefit analysis, and that's where we are presently on the drawing board. So largely, to give you a picture on these 175, I can very proudly say that a lot of progress has been made, and for that, you are the people who have actually pitched in to make this happen. And I'm very, very sure that in the roadmap that we formulated for ourselves, in very, very soon, we'll be 100% indigenous, apart from a few components where the dependency still remains, ex-import. Today, they are apart, while MIL is the lead agency, and they, we source about 70 to 75% of our ammunition from Munitions India Limited. But needless to say, there are good about 20 odd private companies, our partners, who are engaged with us in giving us absolutely top-notch quality ammunition. And these figures are growing. The very best in the country are indulging, and they are giving us the very best that we are hoping for. So that's the kind of a scale in which we are operating. So if this is the ecosystem that we are looking at, and with the changed operational scenarios, with the modernization, with the technology that is coming in, this inventory is also growing. And this inventory is growing courtesy, what we need. I'll again spell out those, but this is where the private industry is pitching in a huge way. So what is that we are looking at? What is our strategy for the time being? So first, to touch base as to what is that we are looking at, and this gets defined, and it's an outflow from everything that we see around us. We just seen Sindoor, only the first phase. It's still on. The global conflicts which are currently on, the technologies which have been brought in. So when we look at the ammunition, or the new generation ammunition, which has transformed and revolutionized the modern warfare and the modern warfare or the war fighting practices, which are these ones? Which are the ones where we are wanting to align ourselves? The list and the magnitude and the spectrum is huge. But just to give you an example, it is the precision guided munitions. Much has been also spoken about the previous speakers. It is the networked ammunition. It is the smart ammunition with better, electronics. It is the directed energy weapons, that is high energy lasers and the microwave. We are looking at the railgun ammunition, the hybrid kinetic energy rounds, the non-lethal weapons, the green and the sustainable ammunition, the hypersonics, the loiters of every class, the EMP capable ammunition, the the polymer cased cartridges. We are looking at the new gen of propellants, which have a greater range, which have greater I would say modularity, and we are looking at reconfigurable kind of multitasking fuses. Of course, the programmable fuses also find their way, and we are looking at better techniques and technologies to come about in terms of the casings and the manufacturing techniques. It could well be configured or made through additive manufacturing. Apart from that, the non-line of sight, the weapon systems, the manpads, the list is endless. And this is where your engagement is extremely essential, extremely important, and extremely significant for us. That if this is the desire that we have, how do we give it shape? And this is where the industry has to pitch in. This is where the collaboration has to come. This is where the convergence has to happen. And that is what we look at it from the capital and from the revenue point of view. So, if this is what we are looking at for the future, what is the strategy that we have adopted? Ladies and gentlemen, just in a nutshell, we have a roadmap which has been put into place, and that roadmap, it's in 3 phases. The first phase is that by 2025, that is the end of this year, we should be 100% indigenous for all our variants. By 2030, apart from being indigenous for every variant that we have, whether it's 175, whether it's 180, it's 200, apart from the Munitions India Limited, we should have minimum 2 more sources of manufacturing for every single product. And within this, in the third phase, is that apart from looking at the needs of the domestic market and the Indian Army or the Indian Armed Forces, we should be now going global. That is where the future for each one of you lies. We will be a very small segment in the consumption, but you will certainly facilitate our surge capabilities. We want to diversify from a single vendor base, that is MIL today, to varied number of partners. We want to get into strategic ammunition partnerships. That is JVs, that is PPPs, that is cross-licensing, that is global collaborations. And we are also looking at some kind of an ammunition vision for this country to come up for the year 2030 or 2035 or 2040. There has to be a national cause. There has to be a national kind of a vision and an objective where we work on a mission mode so as to achieve something. If we are looking to become a power which is very much within our reach and will happen very soon, then we have to upscale and upgrade on many fronts, and of which ammunition or the military might is the key. But everything that I've spoken about is not fraught without challenges. And these challenges today are in terms of our production capacities, of what we state and what the actual capacities are produced. We require a certain amount, a certain quantity to look after our present needs and the future requirements. There are safety control or the safety issues which are there. There are more than 700 accidents over the last 10 years related to ammunition. I think it doesn't augur well. We have to do a lot of introspection related to that. And then there is a dilemma between the budget and our productions capacities. If I have the budget, I do not have the production capacities to, fulfill what we want. At the same time, if the capacities are there, I don't have the budget. So it has to be balanced, in a very delicate kind of a manner. We have issues related to a fragmented approach when it comes to R&D. Whether it's the user, whether it is the DRDO, whether it is the academia, or it is the private sector. Everyone is on his own. I think time has come where we should again come together, sit together, sort out things, converge, and progress in a very, very dedicated kind of a manner if we have to achieve something good and in good timelines. Another thing is about the constraints related to our quality checks. Very rudimentary kind of the inspection protocols or the testing techniques or the clearances. A lot is being done, a lot is getting changed. DGQA is stepping in a big way. A lot of leverage is being given, a lot of freedom and independence is being given to the private industry. But that confidence has to be built first, before we start accepting many things, because it is a question of life and death. And there is no dilution, or there is no substitute, or there is no alternative to the quality that we expect. There is absolutely no compromise, gentlemen. Another facet where we lack is the deficiencies in critical raw materials. And these raw materials are in terms of the propellants, the explosives, and the fuses. When we talk about the propellants, whether it is the NC or the NG or the single based or the double or the triple or the ball powder and all, we are woefully short. The requirement in terms of what we require and what gets produced, I think we need to scale it up by about 5 to 6 times. When we talk about the explosives of all kind, whether it is RDX, TNT, the plastic explosives, the polymers, the composition B or the lead acid and all, again, it has to be, scaled up to about 2 to 3 times. And same goes with the fuses. It has to double up for all types, whether it is mechanical, whether it is electrical, whether it is proximity, whether it is programmable, whatever, but it has to be doubled up. So that is again a deficiency. Then there are supply chain vulnerabilities which come into play. There are delays, there are, there are capacity bottlenecks which are there. And last but not the least, our dependency on export, whether it is a small part or it's a big part, it still remains. We have to become indigenous. We have to look into alternatives. We have to devise for ourselves, those issues and those parts and those components and sub-components which make our products 100% indigenous. So whatever I have talked, to give it a shape is where you people, step in. There has to be a convergence between the 3 very important pillars. That is the users, the industry, and the policymakers. So when I'll start with the users, because we are the ones who give you those problem statements. We tell you as to what is required. And from the user's perspective, I have to be absolutely transparent. I have to give you, those time-bound procurements. I have to give you that visibility of our demands for the future, those long-term contracts. And by the way, every contract that is flowing out of at least the MGS branch, I can assure you that it is not less than for less than 7 years. So it's a combination of between 7 and 10 years that is happening. We are the ones who have to give you the user feedback on the products that you make and manufacture for us, as to how do they fare out in the open, on the ground. And last but not the least is that we can of course support you in terms of all the JVs and the partnerships that you are intending to embark on, because that is the need of the hour. Unless you get the technology, unless you start doing things here in India, things won't work out. And the biggest requirement from our side is the surge capability. Whether we require or we don't require is immaterial, but if you have the capacities to give us in the time of need, during conflicts, during wars, is what will sustain us to, do what we are supposed to. Without that, it won't work out. So from the industry, our ask is that you should be full system capable. Rather than, the system or the subsystem wise, you should be giving us the final product. That is what we are looking at. We are looking at that you should participate and give us this surge capability that I was just talking about. You people should invest and indulge in energizers, what the previous speakers are also talking about. The RDX, the HMX, the CL20, the thermobaric compositions, the green propellants. Wherever there's a deficiency, you people have to, stitch things together. You have to collaborate on the testing and the certification as well. Every company which stands and manufactures and produces something has its own testing capabilities, certification capabilities. But if your product is good enough to match the needs of the Indian Army or the Indian Armed Forces, I think why should we go to the DGQA? Why should we increase the layer? We should be working on delayering. That's the kind of confidence we should be sharing with each other. I think time has come to look into those aspects as well. And of course, last but not the least, when we look at the global market, you have to build capacities for products which are ITR free. Only then can you indulge and engage and possibly do business with the global market. For the policymakers, of course, the Secretary DP did make a mention, but from the user's perspective, and I can of course know your mindset as well, we are looking at fast tracking approvals for sure. We are looking at the technological funds to come so that people can indulge in niche kind of R&D. On R&D, which is the current, which is the future, that is what is required. The present may be just about 40 to 50%, but the future is where we have to embark. The journey starts actually for the future more than the present. We have to set up those innovation hubs and those technological parks and those explosive parks, in case we have to ramp up our capacities. The guiding manuals, whether it is the DAP or the DPM, they have to be revised. It has to be a level playing field. Everyone has to pitch in and everyone has to be competitive before they get accepted. And it can come only if there is a level playing field. There is nothing which is, one-sided or biased towards MIL alone or for any other private company. So these are certain things that, of course, the efforts are on to pitch, to get many things, happen in the rightful kind of a manner. But more than anything, gentlemen, there is a shift which is required. There is a sincerity of purpose that is required. We have to change our character in case we have to deliver something for the national cause. And this shift, when I'm talking about, it is about the mindset. For us, you are not the vendors, you are strategic partners. Take it from me. When it comes to R&D, it has to move from, incremental to the disruptive. When it comes to production, it has to move from linear to modular and scalable. When it comes to inspection or the quality, from rather doing post-inspection, I should be, or you should be giving me an assurance of doing the inspection at source with zero defects. And when we look at the physical kind of engagements, rather than lobbying, you should be sitting together and designing solutions in a collective kind of a manner. While these are all desirables, but I'm sure that we can work to make it happen actually on ground. Ladies and gentlemen, in the end, I would just like to say that the future of Indian Army will not be built on the battlefield alone. It will be built in your factories, in your laboratories, in your boardrooms. This is where the future lies. Ammunition is not a product or a resource. It is an aspect of strategic deterrence. If I have to fight tomorrow's battlefield, then I should not be looking at yesterday's supply chain. I have to be technologically savvy, I have to be diversified, and I have to ensure that there is a very secure ammunition ecosystem which is existing. Today, to have this, it is not aspirational. It is an operational and a national necessity. And that is why, when we look at the future, you are the people who have to make this happen for us. And especially from when we look at from the army or the armed forces point of view, I can ill afford to have an ammunition lag in an era, in an age which is dictated or characterized, by cognitive warfare or AI-based targeting. You are equal partners, you are equal warriors, you are men in, I would say, overalls with us. So let's come together and create an ecosystem, create an establishment which is resilient, which is export capable, and which can give us, smart and intelligent ammunition solutions, which, from my perspective, give me a twofold advantage. Firstly, I'll be able to outrun the enemy's intent or the battlefield requirements or the threats. And on the second front, I'll also be able to outpace the, the battlefield necessities or the battlefield chaos that happens. The requirements would be such that they will require solutions, in the soonest possible time. So everything that we've learned from Op Sindoor, everything that we've learned from the global conflicts, I think it's time that we need to invest, need to sit together, need to get into a participative, convergent kind of a mechanism where deliverance is the final state for each one of us. And I'm telling you, it is not that cannot happen. If we do not exploit this window of opportunity now, I think again we'll wake up to a rude shock, in times to come. So let's weaponize our preparedness in peace. Or it can be said otherwise also, let's weaponize peace with preparedness. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.